up, family? You know how we do it. I've done this so many times, I'm doing it again. Why does it say no data? I see movement. Why does it say no data? Cool. I see movement. Why does it say no data? Cool. I see movement. Why does it say no data? Cool. So that's delayed. I see movement be fixed. Why does it say no data? Cool. So that's delayed. I see movement be fixed. Why does it say no data? Cool. So that's delayed. I see movement be it's close. That's completely off. Check 1, check 2. Check 1, check 2. What if it doesn't have a delay? What if it doesn't have a delay? It's like things keep making it worse. So that was too early. That was about as close as I'm gonna get, I think. Let's see how and if it syncs kind of normal looking. Check 1, check 2, check 3 and 4. 3 and 2 and 2 and 1. And 2 and 3 and 4. 5 That looks actually synced, yeah? Probably would help if I quit moving so I can see the screen. So, yay. Having the afternoon break. It seems as if, I'm not sure how well you're hearing that, so I'll move that over here a little bit. I realize the fan doesn't help, but whatever is what it is. So anyway, surprise, surprise, I had to start over with stuff again. I got the Snappy Lappy back intact. Let me mute this so it doesn't keep doing that. Then I had some issues with the web browser, so I had to get that figured out. And I still haven't figured out how or what the situation with it is. But from what I can gather, and I'm no Einstein by any means, but that being said, I am oftentimes, I think it's because of my ADD and the way I have to be programmed to like see things the way that I do. I tend to see patterns a lot, and even if I'm not paying attention to them per se. And one of the patterns that I've acknowledged, routines, what have you, regular things to anticipate or expect, is that some weekends the internet goes out, and I'm not 100% sure it's not on purpose. Because when I take a peek around the neighborhood, so to speak, and in that I mean in a kind of nerdy way, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, internet, map of the network, etc. I definitely spot a lot of potentially shady stuff, but at the same time, it could also be just people who don't really know what they're doing running things. And I don't want to suggest that they don't know what they're doing per se, even though that's what I'm saying. I mean more that in large-scale networking environments, maintaining uniformity is difficult, especially if you're not aware of how to ghost I don't want to say I don't want to say computers, I don't want to settings, let's call it that you can ghost settings, meaning that from a central access point. And understand, before I dropped out of society, that was my job, was a network administrator for a fancy art college in San Francisco. I kind of like that sound. I've never found that before. That's cool. It's like, that makes it worth keeping around. You know what I mean? Like, that's just cool. So yeah, anyway, how can I put it? If I was a kid and I was fucking around, or maybe I wasn't a kid, maybe I was an adult and I was fucking around with technology today, the easy way to fuck with other people is to find other people, which is super easy with Wi-Fi, internet, Bluetooth, etc. Because almost all devices, unless the user is conscious of it, and even if they're not, is sending out signals. It talks to cell towers, it sends out Wi-Fi, it sends out Bluetooth. There's a old famous hacker who may have coined the term and technology of a botnet. A botnet is essentially a bot is a robot. That means that it is a functionality of, oh, I didn't even think about chat. Sorry, people. I do that. I forget. I still haven't heard from Kale. Got to remember to suggest changing it to DJ Lost, because there's a lot of other artists named Lost that I saw when I was checking out his stuff. Man, how does crust, like, why don't they make super glue out of eye crust? It's like so hard to get off sometimes. That's what she said. So anyway, little things like, let's say I wanted to get everybody's passwords and access to their computers. All I would have to do is wait for the system to go down, use my computer, and put out a signal that says I'm the resident's normal login. I set the password, so it's the password. They connect to my machine. I allow them to connect to the internet, and then I log everything that they do. All that means is every time someone connects to the internet, I get all their information automatically with the log. And then it's just a matter of understanding how to read and understand what the log tells you. Network traffic, logins, passwords, all of those types of things are accessible. In a botnet, for example, if I had a small program that allowed just simply, it said, I'm the internet, connect to my Wi-Fi, use my internet. The challenge with that is it only works if the individual has their own separate internet than the local one. I don't have that currently. Because I don't, like, there's nothing, I don't even know how to put it. I got enough issues in my life. I don't need to be snooping around anybody fucking else's. You know what I mean? There's nothing, I can't see any reason to have any information on anybody that lives around me. Like, I don't care. I wouldn't steal from them even if I had their, like, information. I had to go to the bank to get my bank card fixed because there was something wrong with it. And as I walked in, there was a business card on the floor, and I looked at it, and all I saw was PSWD and a colon. And I just, like, turned it over, looked away, and walked up to the guy and just handed it to him, and was just like, here, dude, I don't want anything to do. I don't know what this is. I don't want to know what this is. Because that's the kind of thing, it's just like, dude, that's somebody's bank card with a password. It's just like scoop and run, bro. Like, that could have been $20,000. It could have been $100,000. It could have been millions of dollars. I don't fucking know. I don't want to know. You know what I mean? Like, if that was my game, I could have got that from all these fuckheads 3-4 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Because what a botnet is essentially is that I can create a small script or program so whenever a computer connects to it, it does a certain process, right? Now, there's always an issue called a handshake or a login where the user will put in some type of information, a username and password. Almost always, for most people, most average users, they keep those all in, they have them memorized. They keep them in storage, so they don't have to type in anything each time. They just click buttons. That was a weird noise. What the fuck was that? They happen here more often than not, but as you can tell, it's like my clock says 2:50 in the afternoon, and 1 to 4 almost every day is really bright. Which kind of makes it difficult in this situation, but for the longest time when I was living here, I lived as far away from the front door as possible because of how loud and disrespectful most of my neighbors are. Like last night, Jed goes on like a 4 or 5 lap. He does these rants. He'll leave his apartment yelling and screaming, like at the top of his lungs, in the same way that a baby is having like a fit, like never breathing, just constant screaming. And he'll go down and out and over and around and back around and up. That's 1 lap. I think what he does is then goes into his apartment, gets a cigarette, comes out, and continues to do his laps. Because I think his laps are smoke breaks. Because we're not supposed to smoke in the apartments. I'm obviously not of that ilk. I used to be, but then after years of being lied to, cheated from, and stolen from, and having such physical disability that it's almost impossible for me to leave the apartment, go down the stairs at night, stand out in sub-freezing weather for 5 to 10 minutes, and then try to hobble my way back up the stairs with no light on. I asked 6 months ago, could you please fix the lights? Oh, yeah, sure, we'll get on that. Hey, could you fix the lights? Oh, yeah, we'll get on that. And then the third time, it's like, you won't fix the lights. You're obviously doing it because it's like personal, and I get it. I'm the type of person people take things personally from, because I take things personally. It's like, the way that I've been treated shouldn't be any different. I believe in equality, and that means for everybody, which means if I was a young single mom living in this apartment, the security would be no different, and I should have no other issues than being a 57-year-old elderly disabled old dude. If the things that have happened to me would have happened to a different person, things would have been handled differently. That there's something wrong with that. Even if it were to benefit me or someone else, there's just still something wrong with that. I just now noticed this. I think this thing adjusts somehow. I don't know what that did. What did that do? There are these two little slots. So it's as if it's an adjustment for focus, maybe, or lighting, or depth, or aperture. I'm trying to get it so it's horizontal. Oh, gosh, it's a pain in the backside, isn't it? It's like every time it flashes, it just blasts my eyes. So yeah, anyway, things continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Which is good and necessary, but it helps me to define what's important for real. And I have to admit, I've gotten a lot of inspiration or moments of clarity, maybe, from the wake-up call that all the folks in California are going through. Here in Boulder, we are not removed from fire at all. I have been in at least 2 situations where we were in almost mandatory evacuation. At the time, I can't say that I had much of a go bag prepared. Currently, as it sits, I can grab a bag, a bike, a trailer, and undoubtedly, if it was something wrong with the building, I could get most of my important stuff out in 2 or 3 trips. It would then take it would take a while to then figure out how to coordinate all of that in a manner that functions. For example, as weird as it sounds, and I think it's possible. I don't know that it's possible, I just think it could be possible. I have 2 trailers and 1 bicycle. One trailer you can't really see down here is a single wheel, and it is currently set up to perfectly hitch to the bicycle because it has a special hitch that has 2 hooks on each side of the axle. Then, for unfucking believable $30, when it's so weird, the guy at REI was like, "Oh, they really pride that." I go, "Well, somebody does, but Amazon has 2 for $9.99. But I got an issue with getting deliveries in my residence anymore, so I just can't. Or I just don't. There are some things I can get delivered up to the Whole Foods, but I don't know what, really. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, ready, set, go bags. For quite a while, I've been in, well, almost a year, I guess. I started 2.5 years ago, maybe. It was once COVID lockdowns subsided, and after the primary, everybody has to get inoculated part. So that was like 2 years worth of no social outings. You know, no comedy clubs, no live shows, no music, no stuff like that. No performances, public performances in that manner. At the very end of it, I remember they started doing outdoor drive-ins just to give people an excuse to go out. So people would get in their car and drive to a place and then watch the show through a radio transmission through their radio, just like in a drive-in. But so I got to thinking about what would it be like if I was in LA or, you know, somewhere in that kind of situation. Say I was here and there was a huge fire and somehow my stuff was salvaged or saved, but everybody else was missing out. What would I do? Now, I am currently in a setting, in a situation where I could be of invaluable assistance to tons of those types of people. It's just no one has that intellect, the awareness of what I have. In the back room, I have enough stuff that with a single bag of cocoa husk and a single bag of nutrients, I could turn a 20 by 20 room into a garden. I have containers, I have soil, I have medium, I have seeds, I have stuff. I don't have lights. I don't have hydroponic pumping watering systems. I don't have rock wool. I don't have, you know, soil medium. I have coffee grounds. I have compost. I have things like that. I have some potting soil and dirt, and I have some plants. Some of which could be cloned, some of which could be modified and or adjusted as far as possibly flowering and then seeding and then harvesting the seeds. Those things take time. I'm obviously not in the time frame continuum. I'm in a position where I'm trying to imagine the minimalistic approach to a go bag. A perfect example is my current setup is a small 14-inch laptop connected to two 24-inch monitors. And I do have an external keyboard and mouse not connected, but I have it. The reason I don't have it is because this laptop is limited to two USB ports currently. I've checked out. There's something that allows you to. There's a box on the market that hooks to your internet connection and allows you to use your like wired network connection, your Cat 5 or Cat 45, whatever it is. I think it's Cat 5. Anyway, you hook that to this box and then you can have more routed USB connections for additional microphones, etc. Now, in a pinch, this laptop has a camera. This laptop has Bluetooth. This laptop has speakers. This laptop has microphones. But this is a better quality microphone. That's a better quality camera. And with OBS, part of my process is doing it so many times that from nothing I can have it up and running. Like currently, I've been streaming 30 minutes, like right on the dot. Oh, spot check. a couple 3 weeks ago, I was utilizing this as a process, and I've still not done it yet. Bad monkey. But there will be a time that I will go to the videos, copy all of the transcripts, paste them into word processing, and then post them on my blog. So everything that I have said on the streams will be in text. That means it's easy to search. That also means that the picture and the voice really doesn't matter so much, because the end result is still text. Same, no different really than how I use this phone, because when I have an idea or I need to write something and my hands are janky or something's just not right with my situation, I can send an email to myself, like that song, Ricky, Don't Lose Your Number. Send it off in a letter to yourself. And I've been doing that for 20, 30, I've been doing that a long time. Just in how it was the only way I could see being able to document things when I was not always in physical possession of things. Does that make sense? Like, I've lost everything so many times. I started finding ways of saving stuff online so I could still have like pictures, recordings, music, writings, etc., that weren't lost if a device was lost. Which kind of brings me back around to more of my nerdy stuff, in that I'm just figuring out that my current situation is about 1 in 3, meaning I can do something for a day and then I have to take 3 days off to recover from that. And that doesn't, I mean, one of those days involved beer, but not really. Like, it was a 6-pack of beer over 2 days, and the third day was just a little bit thicker. This was all it was. And I think alcohol and the yeast and the gluten possibly in beer might not be good for my condition, but the alcohol seems to help me relax so I don't tense up. It seems to be the more tense that I am, the more pinched nerves I have in my back, in my neck, in my wherever it is. I don't know what all of this stuff is. I wonder if that's me. I had a viewer once. Somebody just popped in and said, "What?" Maybe KO will show back up. I hate that about my teeth. About 5 years ago, I had an incident, lost some teeth, and got them replaced. And since then, I've had to relearn how to speak, because they're shaped in a way that causes me to like lisp and whistle and just weird shit. And it's odd, it's difficult, it's strange. Growing up being a singer and realizing how drastically just simple things like a new crown changes the whole dynamic of your teeth. And it's just like, if I'd have known that, I'd have probably had a lot less done if I could help it. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times doctors do stuff just because they can, not because it needs to be done. Like, I had a doctor going, "Oh yeah, well, I'm marking these places because later we're going to want to go in and change those fillings out." And I've always wanted to be able to have no more of the metal fillings, since that has changed in technology. But at the same time, I'd be okay if I didn't have to ever go to a dentist again, as long as I didn't have pain or issue. You know, what I got is what I got, and I got to learn how to deal with it. And it seriously took, and I have yet, it's become such a consistent issue. I normally have to adjust my word choice so I avoid those issues, those things. Like, issues is not an easy word to say without whistling. Things, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that takes me time to go through that process of learning what words are helpful and avoid those sibilants, sound issues. But also it impacts and has a long-term effect for myself as musician, as a public speaker, performer, whatever. Um, to help reprogram my brain to select or to choose wordings and phrasings that don't cause those problems. A good example is growing up in school. I excelled in music classes. That was like that and wood shop were like the two classes that I was like into and enjoyed, because I guess I was just good at it naturally. I don't know. Anyway, there were certain songs, especially during Christmas time, utilizing that as the perfect example, because when a lot of people are singing the word Christmas, standard pronunciation would encourage you to say Chris Mass, which is a lot of S's and sounds that muddy up the audibility of the words. So in that case, our teacher, who was a classically trained voice teacher, voice coach, I mean, I acknowledge that most people would have to pay a person like that thousands and thousands of dollars. I was just blessed, lucky, or fortunate that she was in my reality when I was growing up in school. But Mrs. Gettert specifically, and her assistant, well, second in command, Mrs. Temple, was really good too. But they taught us things like say Cree-smass instead of Christmas, because that way you're putting the emphasis on the vowels and or sounds that are musically pleasant, as opposed to overutilizing, because people don't realize it. If you have an hour program and every 30 seconds or every 10 seconds you hear a lot of s, 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 happy holidays, it's jolly time or Christmas, happy holidays to you. You see, like, that becomes irritable, annoying, and learning how to pronounce things differently so they sound correctly is kind of what I'm getting at. The point is, I've been having to do that myself a lot, and it wasn't until last night I realized I haven't been doing this much or the writing with my phone much, so my voice is not getting the exercise that it should or could, even in a normal day. You know what I mean? Like, I've spent the last 5 years essentially in isolation. Like, the first year after COVID, or as COVID was happening, I had a case manager I talked to for an hour once a week, kind of. I did some physical therapy. I had other appointments and doctors and dental visits, which it may not sound like much, but the difference of just the simplicity of getting on a bus, interacting with the driver to get my bus pass, sitting down, getting off the bus, thanks driver, any interactions that might come up, a possible conversation with somebody sitting by or something, those happen. And then, the appointments, the interactions, I agree, it's not as if it's a lot of dialogue or a lot of effort required. But when you remove that completely, like I have spent years where I might only speak to someone, I'm going to say 3 times a week, because that's like a pack of cigarettes a week, some weed, and that's it. And a lot of times when money got more and more difficult, which is weird because over the last 5 years, money continues to get more and more difficult, although everything is supposedly the same. I have a lot less money, and like 3 months ago, a year ago, I had to reduce my smoking intake, both for health and financial reasons. In the time that I've lived here, a pouch of tobacco has gone from $10 to $25. So it's 2.5 times more expensive. So just to keep my finances the same, I have to smoke 2.5 times less. And I maybe smoke half as much. So therein is part of my financial issue. But just looking at it in basic function, if I have $500, if I have $600 left over after rent and utilities, that's what, $125 a week? Like I get $840 if I didn't have to pay any rent. Let's call that $800. That's essentially $200 a week that I have to spend. The interesting fact is, if you're not spending your 1/3 on housing, they don't give you food stamps. So if I went from spending 1/3 or more of my income for food stamps, it goes down to like $7. It's like not even worth dealing with. It's like, oh, thanks, have a Cliff Bar for the month of survival. Good luck. So financially, it's kind of a catch-22. You lose either way, going in or out. And the thing is, for the last 5 years, I haven't. There were a couple of months where I suffered, you know. Very little tobacco for the month, very little, if any, cannabis for the month, 0 alcohol or any expenditures, including, and it sounds silly, but a bus fare is only $3 maybe for the day pass, but 10 of those is $30. That $30 is a pouch of tobacco that these days is supposed to last at least a week. It doesn't, but it's supposed to. Oh, that's weird. I had a concurrent viewer and now I have no concurrent viewers. Isn't that weird? Like, you'd think that, oh, maybe that's just what's going on currently. No, concurrent is like all added up, so that would be every time somebody popped in, but whatever. It's kind of the beauty of all of this, is that it's one of those things that most people would do for other people, and I obviously am not of that mindset. I have gotten some confirmation that it's funny because I went through all of these efforts and issues and attempts to make sure I was doing everything correctly, and I was backing up all of the stuff on my external hard drives. What you're looking at, you can't really tell, maybe, but these are two computers. These are this is a computer and 3 terabytes worth of backup material. I have one more of these in the space case, but this is a 500. This is a 512 hard drive. This is a 240 hard drive, both SSD. In the laptop currently is my other 512 hard drive. Somewhere I have, I think, a 128 SSD. And I also have two like tanks. I have a 500 gig tank and a terabyte tank. And by that I mean an old heavy hard, like actual hard drive. But I've effectively functioned my morning, I think, with, I did a coffee, I did 3 1-hits, I ate a couple of my little mini muffins, and I drank some more coffee, and I have 3 cigarette butts in my ashtray. And normally my pits might be kind of sweaty. They're not, which makes me wonder if I'm not cranking out the RPMs I'm supposed to be functional in the way that I need to be. But roll a freshie, and just because I'm feeling saucy, I think I'm gonna not. I'm gonna do it this way. What I'm doing is I'm rolling a cigarette, and I pinched a pinch out of the front so I can replace that pinch with a pinch of cannabis. So I'm turning my cigarette into a super fat one-hitter. Ta-da! There you can see that the tip is cannabis. And somewhere around here I have a one-hitter. It's funny, I can't find it, because I was like, no, I'll just do a couple oneies. The strange difference is when you smoke that kind of, there's a different effect I feel when I smoke, and this isn't paper, that it's metal, because that heat radiates back into the cannabis and really charcoal burns it. This, I hope, facilitates 3 to 4 tokes. And usually what I try to do is I'll take a couple drags, set it down, let it kind of simmer so it's not getting hot boxed. And I take one more toke for the third one. And at that point, kind of crush the cherry, because that cuts off the airflow basically, and helps it to go to extinguish itself. And then for the next couple of times that I think, oh, I should smoke a little tobacco, a couple of tokes, toot toot, that will have a couple surprise weed tokes before I get to just tobacco. And it may not seem like a lot, but it helps stretch these little snipes out. Because a couple, 3 tokes off of the joint, and then a couple of tokes off this, might set me up mentally for a good couple hours. Because all I have to do is, you know, a little toke here and there, which is a lot better for my health. And it's the kind of thing that, like, it's just one of those things that society doesn't make any sense about. In that they set up rules that are intentionally, like, the rules are designed to be bad for the people who they enforce the rules on. Does that make sense? Like, a person who smokes is already susceptible to air issues, like problems. So to force them to be outside in the cold, that's kind of silly, isn't it? Especially when, I mean, like for myself, I'll smoke 3-4 cigarettes in a day, you know, be productive, do stuff. And if every time I took a puff or two, I had to spend 10 to 15 minutes to go up, outside, down, deal with the outside, smoke the cigarette, I'm gonna smoke the whole thing. I'm not just gonna take a couple of drags, probably, because why go through all that effort for just a couple of little somethings? And then it throws that whole routine and schedule off, and then no productivity and no function, and essentially no bueno. The other reality that I set for myself is the standardized routine and protocol of my day, in a manner like a flow chart, that each thing is a box, is an event, is an activity, is a something, right? For example, coffee. To drink coffee, I require hot water, a funnel, a cup, coffee grounds, a filter, and hot water. If I don't have those things, I spend $1 or $3, or $5, and I get all of that into the cup. My issue is I drink at least 3 cups in a day, probably. And by that day, I mean a normal person's work day. And this one is just starting to get into the tobacco. So when I set it down this time, I'll probably forget that it tastes like tobacco, like that there's weed in it. And I still have approximately, I'd say that's about 3/4 of a gram, maybe. And there's probably crumbs, and maybe there could even be another container around here with weed in it, but we're coming up on 1 hour, and I try to do these things consistent, but again, not so long, because when I go back through these things, and that might be something I do later today, is I could do a live stream of how to do that, just because and it also kind of connects with the web page dealy. And this currently is, in essence, the extent of my social media, in that I deleted my Facebook, I deleted my Twitter. I can't say I really ever used Instagram. Like, I tried to delete it a couple 3 years ago and it was being difficult, so I was just like, fuck it, I'll just ignore it. When I deleted I deleted some other accounts that were connected to YouTube channels, and I'm working to continually minimize and reduce that stuff. But I have had production and productivity. I did a fabric dyeing session last night and today, finishing up laundry, finishing up packing, and then I've got a couple days of runs to the recycle bin with trash bags of cans and stuff in the back. Most of it's pretty lightweight. It's just bulky and cumbersome. But I'll get that stuff done, and the back room will be empty, and the front room will be mostly empty. And at that point, I should have little more than what's in the closet. And even as I contemplate it, half of that stuff is mostly shelves and or books and heavy things. The shelves are lightweight. But anyway, I got to do business, go do my meditation. I'm out.